doing professional hybrid lectures with a setup time of 10 minutes? Is that possible at all? Oh, yes, it is. I show you how. Of course, everybody can do a professional looking hybrid lecture if you work in a dedicated room and have 5 people doing all the broadcast stuff and so on. But you have just 10 minutes and before your lecture, have another group sitting, for example, abroad and want to do a hybrid lecture, which looks not like shit and might even would like to record it. Now, how can you do that? In this case, I show you how you can do that just using equipment for around about 350 euro and a setup time of 10 minutes. First of all, what can you expect? How does it look like? Yeah, so this is just a demonstration of what you can do. So this is the OBS Tinycam, which is filming me. And of course, usually you will do a presentation, for example, on Italian water dogs. And if you talk about Italian water dogs, you need people who are experts, and usually within the students you have your experts. And today this is Anja. And Anja, my first question is, Anja, it's nice to have you here via WebEx. So WebEx is the same as Zoom and Skype and whatsoever. So I was told that you're an expert of Italian water dogs. Is that true?
Definitely.
Definitely true. You look absolutely convinced. So therefore, let's see whether that's really true. So you see on this picture there is a kind of a little quiz. So what's on this picture? A snow dog, or B, is it a water dog?
I'm gonna have to go with B.
So you go with B. Anja, you are a real expert. This is a water dog, and of course all of us are happy that this has been identified. And on the next slide you also see a more easy picture where you see, yo, it is a water dog and the water dog is jumping around. Of course, what you could also do in real time is then bringing in videos and so on. So you just then push on a button and then you can, for example, just put in a title jingle, and this then demonstrates how this can directly work. You can put everything in and you just operate that via the Streamdeck. So what you also can do, by the way, what I've forgotten before, you can switch to the board. So if you, for example, want to show the students what is the specialty of Italian waterboards, it's in this case, of course, a ball. And this is also my talent in arts. Drawing balls works quite well. So this is what Italian water dogs usually prefer for playing. So, and this is just the integrated webcam of the notebook. So you just need to put the notebook in a way that the integrated webcam also can take pictures of the board. Okay, so this is just the short demonstration of what you can do with this hybrid setting. Yeah, what you have seen in this example is a setting which was really live, no processing in post. This was using the setup I will describe you in a second. Okay, so, but now how can you do it? First of all, I want to show you the equipment which is used for such a setting. So the equipment is very simple. We use just basically 3 things as an equipment. In the easiest setup type, we just use in-ear headphone. So we use an in-ear headphone. In this case, it's the Jabra Elite, but you could whatever in-ear headphones with Bluetooth connection. Second, we use the OBS Tinycam. This is this little piece here. You will see in a second why it's so cool to use this camera, because it can trace you. And this is the, I would say, most important feature for a hybrid lecture, that you don't have to stand around. And the third thing you need is the Elgato Streamdeck. I will show you, it's all USB connection, so you can just stick it to your computer and that's it. And the Jabra Elite headphone is via Bluetooth. So you just take it out of your box and then it works and it's connected. So this picture shows how this is at the end, everything is connected. You see just two things to be connected, and the earphones are just to be taken out. That's it. Okay, what do you actually need for setting up? It's very quick, very brief. You just have your Streamdeck as depicted. You have for the easy setup the in-ear headphones which connect via Bluetooth and your OBS TinyCam. So you connect your camera. Connect it to the computer. Then you connect your Streamdeck. Also connect it to the computer. And then you take out your earphone, and as it's Bluetooth, the pairing goes automatically. That's it with connection. So setting up the system is now ready. It takes really 10 seconds. And now it's going on with setting up the software. The more, let's say, time-consuming step, what you need next is setting up the software. And also here we have basically 3 pieces of software running in order that everything works well. The most important software we use here is OBS, because OBS Studio is the software used for all the broadcast stuff and the picture stuff. Of course, this is another tutorial on how to use OBS, but I just want to briefly show you what you can do with OBS. And this is, of course, a mandatory piece to be used here in this setting. And there are tons of tutorials around, if you're new to OBS, how to use it. So what you actually see here is OBS running. So you see me, and I now just switch to the scene. Now this is the OBS TinyCam. And you see how this camera is following me. Now, what can you do with OBS? So you see that I can switch in OBS to different scenes. And this scene, this is what you see here in this preview screen. This is what you can then send to as a virtual camera to your streaming software. You can do, of course, way more. You can directly send that to YouTube, but this is not the story here, Twitch or whatsoever. So all the streamers also use OBS, but you can use that as a virtual camera. So in a virtual camera, then you can put everything what you have composed in OBS to your virtual camera. So here you have your scenes and you can set them up as you want. So just I want to demonstrate to set up a new demonstration scene. So demonstration scene. Okay, and now of course it's empty, nothing inside. So let's put a background picture. I use default background. Okay, and you see this is a bit small, so I put it over the complete background. And then I need another source. I want to have my, let's say I want to have my PowerPoint. So I add, in this case, a window. So here I use existing ones, PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So you see now I have my PowerPoint presentation. I make it a bit smaller. And as I'm using 4:3, I just want to have things to actually see. Okay, so this is this one. So what I want to use now in addition is, for example, the internal camera of my laptop. So I say recording device here. I use an existing one, laptop camera. Okay, and you see then this is my notebook cam. And of course, I have to move it now somewhere else. And I want to put the PowerPoint in the front and the other thing in the background. And you have seen in the demo what I use with this laptop camera. What I do is I record with the laptop camera the board where I write on. So this would be now an overlay where I can write on the board and at the same time have a PowerPoint displayed. in order to, for example, copy things from the PowerPoint and do calculations and so on. So this is an example how I can set up scenes. Very simple. Of course, you can change things and so on. But in principle, that's it what you need. Okay, so what I can do now is I can start a virtual camera. This can be used as an input in your Zoom or Skype or WebEx. And you see, if I look on the WebEx screen, I just move that here. So you see this is my WebEx screen, and you see now this is the picture which directly goes. This is still here I am. This is my camera. So this goes directly in WebEx. And if I change to another camera, for example, if I change now to this OBS cam, this also goes directly in WebEx like I have shown you. You start the virtual camera, that's to send it to another software. And you can also record what's getting out. This is very important because then you have the raw recording, and this with a high quality. So this is very good because then you don't need to record in your streaming software, and usually there the quality is lower. Okay, so now we have here our PowerPoint. We have send it to the virtual camera, have it in our WebEx or meeting software, and can record it. The other thing is that the students in the room need to see something. So what we can do is we can project the preview to a screen. So we just project then it to a screen, and then on the screen you see exactly what is there. So in other words, so there you use the stream, the beamer, and then the students in the room see exactly the same as the people in WebEx. This is very important because then you can put everything in there. So importantly, if you go now to the lecture, the only thing you do is you start your virtual camera, and you might also start the recording. So what sometimes happens with OBS is that it doesn't see the camera, and especially the OBS cam, the tiny cam. In this case, double click on the source and then reset it, and it works. So this finding this took me at least 5 hours watching YouTube videos, and most of the other things were not the problem. Of course, it's clear if you have selected this camera in WebEx directly, it will not work. That's clear. But even if everything is fine, every camera can be accessed. Sometimes it doesn't work. Reset. This is the secret. So this is something to check whether the camera works. So just look at it, whether you have the correct window selected. For example, PowerPoint only. Sometimes the incorrect window is selected. You might need to then also double click, change the screen. So here you can see where to find it, just as an example, or if you have your screen that the wrong screen is there. So this is something you can, of course, then adapt. However, if all this is done and if all that works, and this is just seconds, this is just checking, then you just have to start your virtual camera, and that's it. So you start OBS, check whether the cameras are running, start your virtual camera, that's it. And if you want to record, you press start record. That's it. Yeah, basically this is the picture setup. So you set up everything which is video and so on in OBS. You can do a plethora of things in OBS. So again, there's other software on how to do it. So you're warmly invited to watch these other tutorials, what you can do with OBS. This is one thing, but this is just video. So the other thing is audio. The truth is the audio makes the things a bit more complicated. Now, I said that it depends now on whether you want to record the things or not. So if it's very simple, you can if you don't want to record, then things are quite simple. Then you have your OBS running, and then you can directly say to your WebEx or Zoom software or whatsoever, use the headphones as input, and then put the output to the speakers of the beamer via the HDMI. So you just use the HDMI out or microphone out or headphone out, whatever you have, connect that to your speakers, and that's it. This works if you just have sound coming from your earphones. So if you're the only one to speak, this does not work if you want to have videos or so going on. So in other words, whether there is also audio signals coming from apps. And then you cannot use this setting. Then you have to go to this setting. So this setting means that you have OBS or PowerPoint or whatsoever, also with audio signals. So you see here we have video signal. This is all handled by OBS. This is, as I said, no problem. But we have now also audio signals. Now the audio signals coming from our headphones, the audio signals from our PowerPoint, and the audio signals from OBS all go into a software called Voicemeeter Banana. And this software is a kind of a virtual mixer. I will show it in a second. And there you can then distribute the audio signals. So some audio signals go to WebEx, but the signal which comes from WebEx, and this is the point here why you cannot just use OBS. The signal which comes from WebEx doesn't go back to WebEx or Skype or Zoom as always. It's just sent to the beamers and speakers. And this is the reason why Voicemeeter Banana is required in this setting. It's written here that all these software, so you have a WebEx running, or Zoom, which is a software which usually uses heavily computer power because there's a lot of video calculations on. Of course, the same is true for OBS. It uses a lot of computer power, and the same is true for Voicemeeter Banana. So if you want to put that setting on a computer, make sure that your computer has power. Yeah? Otherwise, it will not work. You will have problems. Okay, so this is the setting. So we have talked about that we need to set up Voicemeeter Banana. So now for setting up the Voicemeeter, what you have to do is you have to set up this audio routing here. So you want to handle differently, especially the signal coming from WebEx, the signal coming from the headphones, and the signal coming from applications. So this needs to be handled differently because they are sent to different ways, so routed to different sources. And this is what you need to set up at the beginning. You need to copy this picture basically into your Voicemeeter setting. Now, how can you do that? So here we have Voicemeeter running, and you see that if you look at the screen, you have here the input devices and you have the output devices. Output is here, input is here. Here I have the input of my headphone, and you see this is going out to different devices here. As an output here, I just have selected the headphone, but of course, I want to have also an output should also be the display. So now the output is also selected. One output is going to the display, to the beamer. Okay, now how should the output look like? And this is what you need to, let's say, what you need to look at first. So you want your headset to go to WebEx, but you don't want your headset go to your headset itself. And usually you don't want to have your headset going to your beamer, because what you use here is a headset which is sensitive to feedback loops. So therefore, usually if you use this poor man setup, don't put it out also to the beamer. Then you would have to use other audio sources. We will go to this more advanced audio equipment in a minute. Now, the WebEx, of course, you want to go to the WebEx, so that's green one, usually not to the beamer, and for sure not to the headset. Now, the WebEx signal might go to the headset. This is not necessarily. So this is the people talking to you via WebEx or Zoom or so. But of course, it needs to go out to the beamer. In other words, that the people in the room can hear. Beamer in this case means the loudspeakers in the room. So if you don't have, if that doesn't work via HDMI, here you would use the sound card as a physical out. And of course, the virtual the signal from WebEx should not go back to WebEx. So this is forbidden here. Yeah, and other applications like OBS, or if you have a video displayed in PowerPoint or whatsoever, these also don't necessarily go to the headset, but of course they have to go to the beamer so that everyone can hear it, and they have to go to WebEx. So this is what you need to copy basically for your WebEx setting and for your Voicemeeter setting. And let's go now into Voicemeeter. So I just display it over it so you can see it. So you can, first of all, very importantly, you can store the settings. So in other words, as soon as you are then in this room, just restore it. So you go to menu, and then you can say load settings, and then you load the settings you want. So let's go. And I've called that Jabra settings. So here we are. Now here I just changed the speaker. I see that these are not the display speakers, just for the sake of completion. And that's it. So you see here, I have my headphones. So this is the headphone actually. I have no input on the device 2 and 3. This microphone is recorded directly. This is completely independent. This is the sound just here. So this is not for the poor man's setting. Input 3, also nothing. And now I have my virtual inputs. And you see here, my Bluetooth headset is input 1, this one. Not used, input 1, 2, 3. And now my WebEx signal goes into the virtual input 1. This is this input 1, virtual input. And the other applications like OBS go into this other input. So this is also important that at the first time when you set up OBS, make sure that everything is directed to this input. So then you also make sure that all your apps use Voicemeeter aux as there where they put the sound. Now, WebEx, of course, should not be put to Voicemeeter aux. WebEx must be to this Voicemeeter Vario, and this is just showing how this is being set up. So for WebEx, and of course it's similar if you use Zoom or whatsoever, you go to your audio settings, and in this case you need to select, as we said, the speaker comes from the Voicemeeter, and this is the Voicemeeter. It's a bit confusing here. It's the Voicemeeter in. So this here, the virtual out, this is a bit confusing sometimes, but it's not the aux, it's without aux. And the microphone, the same, is not the aux, is Voicemeeter output. And you see that now here comes my WebEx signal. So if I say test, so here I have my WebEx signal, and this is now also sent to my headphone. So this is A1. So this is sent to my headphone because I have selected that here. Okay. And you see that if I talk, that my Voicemeeter signal, which comes here, is also sent to WebEx. So this is my headset microphone, which goes there. This is at the beginning, I have to confess, a bit confusing. You have to work a couple of times on it. But at the end, if you know the software and if you know how to use it, you can set that up within seconds. The first time is maybe not so easy. However, you are then completely free where to put all the signals. Okay, so now we have connected that. So, and you make sure that in the case of other apps, all other apps, especially OBS, you don't select the Voicemeeter input, you select the Voicemeeter aux input, and that's the difference. So if I select the Voicemeeter aux input here, I have to remove that one now. Then you see the signal now comes here. Yeah. Let's change that immediately. Okay. So this is now my WebEx setting. And again, for OBS, I have to use the aux always for all the other apps. Yeah, for the WebEx, I just use everything without aux. Of course, you can configure that as you want. It's just recommended always using the same configurations, because then things are easier to set up. Okay, and now as soon as you have the correct connections here, you need to make sure that you send it to the correct device. Now you see here I have a 3 always selected. This is something I'll explain in a second. So here the headset 1 just goes to B1. Now the other one are not there, so nothing is there, and the WebEx can go to my headphone. So I have now A1 again is my headphone. This is the physical out headphone. I can select that. I click on that, and you see here, this is my headphone. There are tons of things with regard to what driver to use and so on. So again, it's not a Voicemeeter tutorial here. It's just telling how you can set it up. Now, A2 is my display audio. This is going to the beamer or going to the HDMI cable, and then to your, for example, your monitor loudspeakers. Or you can, of course, use whatever you want. So this means my WebEx signal, this is this one, goes in this case to my headset, goes, of course, to the beamer. So this is A2. It doesn't go to anything else, and especially it doesn't go back to WebEx. B1 is WebEx. Now my aux signal goes to the headphone. This is optional, goes to the beamer, and now I have removed that because we have changed the WebEx signal. Of course, this also goes to WebEx or Zoom in order that the people sitting there can hear signal coming from OBS or from the application. So for example, if you play a video, that they can hear the sound, the audio of the video. That's it. So what you can do is you can also record. So what you can do is you can record all signals, for example, and this is the first showing that on the next setting. So if I want to record that, I just can I have several ways. The problem with Potato is that you don't have a real multi-track recording, but we will, in the advanced audio setting, we will talk about that. At the end, what I do is, for a very simple setup, I send the Bluetooth, the WebEx, and the OBS signal just to one bus, what I didn't use because the physical out 3, nothing is there. So I just drive that all to this physical out 3. Here we go. 3, 3, 3. So this one, of course, we don't put there because there's nothing. And then I can right-click here and I can say what I want to record is physical bus 3, say where to put it. I'm fine with that. And then I can just push recording, and then it's recording the signal. So this is how you can do the recording in Voicemeeter. However, it's recording a mix. I will talk about that in a second if we talk about advanced audio settings. So again, using WebEx for the first time is using Voicemeeter for the first time says that you will need to play around a bit. However, as soon as you have set up, everything is fine. Because, and now comes the most important part of all the story here, at the end in the lecture itself, you don't touch, during the lecture, you don't touch neither OBS nor Voicemeeter. The only thing you touch is your Streamdeck. And I have already shown that. So on the Streamdeck, you have these buttons, and you see that there are buttons where I can then switch to different scenes via the Streamdeck. So I just have to push that on the Streamdeck. And in this case, obviously, I use my Streamdeck software. So I'm just holding my Streamdeck here. So on this software, of course, you see what is there on the Streamdeck. And if I put, now I'm just doing it that you can see it as an example. If I now put an OBS scene to a button, you see that it immediately appears on the Streamdeck. So this was the new button, and you see that on the Streamdeck, it immediately appeared. Okay, so now let's have a look what you can do with this software. So with the Streamdeck. So let's assume I want to have an additional scene with this board and this PowerPoint at the same time, what we have just set up before. So you see that here I have my OBS Studio, and here I have scenes. So what I do is I can directly move on these buttons a scene. With the Streamdeck you can do more. There are also other softwares to control, but we keep it simple. So I just take this OBS Studio scene and move it here to the button. That's it. Now I can change the button. So what I do usually is I prepare pictures which are really displaying what I'm actually doing, because in the lecture it's easier to see just on the icon than to read the text. So I use a new picture. So here you see I have a couple of pictures, and I use now this one. I want to do an overlay PowerPoint and board. So now the picture is there, and this is then PowerPoint plus board, in German Tafel. Scene-Vorlesung, so I can change the scenes, but I want to use this one, of course. And this is the demonstration scene, which we have just set up. Here it appears, so we just click on here, and now we put the demonstration scene. So here PowerPoint is running, so you see that this is a PowerPoint. And if I now click on the Streamdeck, for example, here, camera plus PowerPoint, then this is changing in the OBS software what is happening there. So I click now here on camera plus PowerPoint, and you see here I am on my OBS cam. And I can then switch to PowerPoint plus board. Now, this is, of course, not the board. This is just the other camera. So I can put here a virtual board, and I can write then on this board. So this is the scene we have just designed. So that's the cool thing about the Streamdeck. And this is just done by pushing the buttons. So in order that you believe me, I'm just showing it to you. So we have in the Streamdeck, we have the new scenes. And if I now push this one, I'm changing to this. And if I push now on, this one, here we are. And that's important. This is what you do during the lecture. You just press this button. That's it. And this is the secret, because this you can do. You cannot work in the lecture with OBS or Voicemeeter and so on. That's way too complicated. You just push buttons on the Streamdeck. That's all. So in other words, what you need to do for the setting up after you have connected everything, you just start OBS. What you have prepared, of course, before with OBS, you just start your virtual camera, then you start Voicemeeter. You, if not yet done, load the configuration you have preset. And at the end, you make sure that your Streamdeck works. And that's it. So for OBS, you start it, virtual camera, and you need to project it to the beamer. This is usually what you always have to reset. And this means that altogether, the time you need for setting this up is 10 minutes. So I need 10 minutes at maximum now to set things up. Usually I come 15 minutes before, because usually I always forget a cable and so on. So this then makes additional time. But if I have nothing forgotten, everything is fine. After 10 minutes, everything is set up. Well, what I've shown before is 10-minute setup. You have really good video quality. You have audio, you have interaction, you have a hybrid lecture. Everything is fine. But what about if you want to improve it a bit? If you want to especially improve the audio quality? Image is okay. You could put another camera to have the students. But what about audio? The question is, what do we actually need? So first of all, I would say we have to look at the setting, or where we are. So we are in a lecture hall or in a seminar room. And of course, we have audio coming from the lecturer, the students who respond to question, discuss, or participate. And of course, we have surroundings, so let's say applause or laughter and things like that, which is in the lecture hall. The audio from WebEx and apps we have already talked about. This is simply registered via Voicemeeter Banana, for example. So we don't care about this audio. It's just the audio coming from the room. Now, the next question is, if we know where it's coming from, where should it go? Of course, if it's a hybrid lecture, the people in the auditorium need to hear it. And we want that the internet people, so present in WebEx, Zoom, or whatsoever, which are in the Messenger software, can participate. And finally, we might want to record. So, of course, first of all, we need to have the lecture signal. If we talk about recording now, need to go to the internet and recording. That's obligatory. Otherwise, the hybrid lecture makes no sense. However, you would also like to have the participation of the students going to the internet and the recording. In other words, that the people on WebEx or Zoom can hear what questions are asked, or what the participation of the students. The other students already hear what's coming from the internet, so that it's going in both directions. And finally, you would like to have the surrounding. So if there is there is laughter, applause, or whatsoever, going also to the recording and or internet, that's then a real participation, kind of. Depending on the lecture hall, if it's a large room, you might even need microphones or amplification also back to the auditorium. So the arrows here are just the arrows where you have audio signals which have been routed. So of course, as before, if the lecturer speaks and it's a small lecture room or a small seminar room, you don't need microphones, and then nothing goes to the auditorium. So this is the maximal setup you could envisage. And now the question is, how can you realize that? Because of course, if you have hours, days of time, you can do whatever you want. But I want to show you here, how can you do that in a setting where you have at maximum 15 to 20 minutes to set everything up and to get the best possible quality out of the lowest possible setup time. So for our quick and dirty setup, we just use this headset, put it in, and that's it. Works fine, very fast. However, of course, the audio quality of this setup is not excellent, that's clear. So for a let's say easy setup where you just have where the purpose is mainly the live lecture, everything is fine. Where you have more where you want to do really things with the recording, then it's not so ideal. Now, a substantial enhancement is already if you use a wireless microphone set. So there are, I would say, two which I could recommend. This is the Rode Wireless Go or the DJI Mic. Advantage of the DJI Mic is that you have a hard case where you can charge, but I still have it just came out a couple of months ago, but I use the Rode and that's fine, it works good. So you have two things in the wireless set. Of course, you have the sender, the transmitter, this one, and you have the receiver. So if you want to start, you just push the button on the sender and the receiver. And as you see now, they have started. And you see that you immediately, if you look, this is just the sender. If I put it here, you see that you immediately get the signal from the transmitter, the sender, to the receiver. Now you can make things quite a bit better. So it has an internal microphone, but you can make things quite a bit better if you use a so-called lavalier microphone. So certainly you have already seen that. So what you do with such a lavalier microphone is you just put it to your shirt. You just connect it, and then you put it somewhere in a bag or so, and that's it. So you see that setting up this, starting the receiver and the transmitter is a question of a couple of seconds. And the cool thing about this, this receiver, both Rode and DJI, you can connect them to the computer. So you can directly choose that as an audio source. So in Voicemeeter, what you do is, instead of using the headset microphone as an audio source, you just choose this one as an audio source, and that's it. And then you have everything is running well. The other cool thing is that the audio is automatically, as soon as you have initiated that, this you have to do once, automatically recorded in the transmitter. And this is very helpful because then you can always use the raw signal from the transmitter. You don't need to record it in addition. Okay, so that's how a very quick change, a simple change really enhances the audio quality quite a bit. And I'm actually also, as I've connected it, I'm actually also registering it. This is not just the lecturer, so you will not hear the students at present. And this, of course, would be the next step, that you also have the students' participation going to the internet, so the people on Zoom or WebEx, and being recorded. Now, the cool thing here is you don't have to do much more. So if you use that Rode set, what I do is, in the Rode Wireless Go 2, there are 2 transmitters going to the same receivers. So the only thing I do, I put that in a small bag sachet where I put some cushion, and then I can throw it around and can directly throw it to students and so on. And they just put that on their desk, and then you have the sound of the students also there. And if you use this as is that connected as an audio source, you automatically have the other things also. Small drawback is that you, of course, have this throwing sound and so on, which goes to the people on WebEx Live. But you can remove that, of course, in post, but on live you have that. That's like it is. It's if you tell the students in hybrid lectures, it's always better to be there live. Yeah, this is how it looks like. If you have connected it, very simple. You have simply connected the receiver, and the Rode microphones are at the persons or in a sachet, and that's it, in a small bag, and that's it. Okay, now let's come to the surrounding. So the surrounding is, you want to have the complete atmosphere and so on in the hall. It is important to mention what is surrounding. Of course, surrounding is everything. So surrounding encompasses laughter and so on, but it will also encompass the sound of the lecturer, the students, and so on. Everything will go into this recording if you want to record it. Of course, also there are sophisticated ways to do it, and it's not easy to do that in reality. If you go to a studio where you have also an audience, you will have hundreds of microphones hanging around. This is, of course, not an option for you. Again, we're talking about easy to do things with a setup time of a maximum of 20 minutes. This is not the setup time if you want to set up a recording, live recording, or so. They will take days for setting up the microphone. You don't have this time. So what you can do is, you can use, for example, such a field recorder. So this is this field recorder is for recording sounds and so on. Of course, there are different around. So we want to have it cheap. An example is this Zoom H1N, and you just need to start it. This is this one, and that's it. And you see that it's immediately starting to listen. And if you want to record, you just push record, and that's the setup time for such a field recorder. So the setup time for recording, you see, it's 20 seconds at maximum. So this is also perfect. So you just put it in a way where you have directed to the auditorium. You can also connect that via USB to the computer, which I do not recommend. And of course, you could connect that also to a mixer. This I will come to in a second. So with this little equipment, you can record the surrounding. And again, for surrounding, the question is, do you just want to record it, or do you also want to put it to the internet? And of course, this can be done, but I would not recommend that, because the problem is, surrounding means you register everything. So surrounding means everything. So maybe that you just get an impression. I'm just now to compare the recordings of the different microphones. So this is a dynamic microphone, and the advantage is this is kind of dumb for surroundings. So this makes it easy to record in a room like this, which is not a studio. But now I'm having all the machines running. I'm also having, of course, my lavalier microphone still there. So first thing to do is, if I want to use that sound, synchronize. Don't forget that. Just clap in your hands, because in post then you can have the sound quickly edited. Now, if I just have now this recording, again, I use this lavalier microphone, the dynamic microphone, and if I just now scratch a bit make a bit of a noise on the table, and now this is with a normal dynamic microphone. This is with my lavalier microphone, and this is now with a H1N field recorder. And I think it's obvious that especially with a field recorder, you have everything inside. And this is extremely annoying if you have that as a sound together with the other sound. So therefore, without additional controls also on where someone is on a mixer and regulates the sound of the surrounding, you cannot use that in an internet setting. You can only use that in post, where you can decide when to use it. And this is, of course, then some effort what you have to do in post. However, you could say, well, my problem is even I'm not such a specialist in video editing. Should I record if I know? Should I record all this audio if I know I need that audio for the lecture, but I'm not a pro in post? My recommendation is record it always. Even if you have no idea what to do later on, you have it, because you can ask others to use that to make a good audio quality. But if the audio is not there, there is no way to improve the audio quality. By the way, I would always recommend to use such a field recorder. Just put it if you need the recording, because you see it's set up in 5 seconds, and you have always all audio there. So if you have forgotten pressing the start button, or you have forgotten to charge your transmitter or something like that, you will always have a backup, and that's an advantage. So I would always use a field recorder if you need the recordings later on, because this is no additional time. So maybe that's the time to look what scenarios you might have. So you want to record your lecture. This is the scenario 1, our poor man's hybrid setup. With recording, so to have some for the students, just for the students, that they have the chance to watch it again. So therefore, of course, the audio quality is not so important, and it's okay. It's not a seminar, so it's okay if you just have the lecture you just repeat. If a student has a question or so, you just repeat it for the people on WebEx or Zoom. So this is the simple setting what I have shown at the beginning. It's okay. So the audio is not extraordinarily bad, but it's okay. Yeah? So if you want to improve that and you want to have a better audio, but you want to have a minimal setup time. So what you do in this case is you still use your headset for the audio to the internet, because that's quickly set up. Don't have to do much. But in addition, you just put your lavalier microphone and just put the transmitter. So it's recording that. So it's recorded, and you put your field recorder. It's recorded. So you have everything in high quality. It just doesn't go to the internet for that session, but you have everything. And setting up just the transmitter and this field recorder, this is half a minute. This is done in 30 seconds. This is not something which really takes time, because you don't need to do that, to connect that at the computer. So computer stuff is just, again, this headset, which is directly connected just by taking it out of the case. That's very simple. So this is the enhanced audio scenario. I would recommend that do that always. As soon as you say I want to record, always do it like this, because it doesn't take more than 30 seconds. You just start it, record it, and that's it. And you have, with a field recorder, you have the advantage. You always have a backup if something went wrong with your recording. Now, what about if you have a seminar and you have 15 to 20 minutes setup time? However, you have no other person who helps you. So you have a seminar. So this means it's a student participation is the rule. It's not just a question in between. So it's a living discussion. So therefore, it is relevant that you get the students' participation. So in this case, don't use the headset anymore. So use the Roadie, connect everything to the transmitter, and then everything goes to the internet, and in parallel record. Of course, for the lecturer, use the lavalier microphone. For the student, it's fine to just use the transmitter in the sachet. In parallel, record the surrounding. This is again 1 second. Always record that. And this is directly recorded in the device. Again, you don't need to connect it to somewhere else. Of course, the same is true for students' participation and the lecture stuff. It's also recorded on the transmitter. So maybe that's a thing to add here. So how does the Voicemeeter Banana setting look like if you do this seminar setup recording? So as a source now, of course, you have the Roadie Go via USB, which goes in one. So it's instead of the Jabra Elite. So what you do again is store that as a different setting, and then you can just retrieve it. Then what you don't do now is you don't record that at the level of Voicemeeter, because you have an internal recording. So you don't record that internally. This makes life for you later in post very much easier, because this recording just is the WebEx signal and the OBS or app signal. So it's very much easier than to do all the post stuff. Of course, you need to use the signal for WebEx out. So this is the same. It's just don't use that for recording. So if possible, I would always use that setup because then in a seminar, because then you have all the audio recorded. Now, if you have a bit more time and you have an assistant, so this means that the assistant can say, now a student is talking, now I'll mute the student. This is especially important if the internet auditorium, if you live stream to a large number of people and also the audio quality in the internet gets more important, then it's good to have an assistant who monitors the audio signal. In this case, you have to use a mixer. So you route your signal from the students and from yourself to a mixer. You can separate these signals then on the mixer, and then, for example, you can always have the student's microphone muted only if someone is asking something or so, it's unmuted. And this means that the throwing around and so on is not so disturbing. So that makes the quality, of course, way better. In this case, you could also include a recording, or you can also use the surrounding. This is, however, a busy job then later on for this assistant, because you will always have to play around with the faders, because you fade out if you're talking and there is nothing else going on, and you fade in as soon as there is applause. So that's complete concentration over the complete period of time. Often this doesn't work too good, and then your audio quality is rather disturbing for the people than better. So, but this already makes a difference if you can fade out, or if you can mute the student's microphone if it's not in use. And of course, you can monitor, and this is very important, you can monitor the signal, the audio signal. And now coming back to the maximum setting. Everything goes to everything. Of course, we have talked about the non-dashed lines are the setting which I have presented before when you have enough time and an assistant. And that's it. So you might add the surrounding stuff. However, there you need to be sure that your assistant is prepared, monitors really what goes out, always have the headphones on, and is not sleeping during the transmission. Then, of course, what also could be that if you have a larger lecture hall, that you need the audio signal also go to the auditorium. This is something which is difficult using these microphones because they are very sensitive to feedback and so on. So in this case, usually you need other microphones. Then you need to take, this means that as soon as you have to take, let's say, use also the microphones for the auditorium speakers, then test the setting first. It will be difficult to have the students' participation with their microphones, with this Rode microphones. It might work, but test that first. So this is really getting complicated if you need to have this in auditorium because of this feedback. So in this case, most likely you need to use other microphones. So if you omit these two things here and these three things, then the other setting is fine because in the recording you have the best quality. Just for the auditorium, it might be difficult. So there are speakers which are very good with respect to filtering out feedback loops. Then you can go with these lavalier microphones, for example. However, again, I would not necessarily recommend it. Of course, again, if you think of audio, there is quite an effort for post-processing. So you have then the signals are overlaid and so on. So that's real work. And you say, I don't have the time, I don't have the knowledge and so on. Why should I record all this audio? Again, if you only record the audio, if you know that you need the recorded lecture. Please do it as good as possible because as long as you have the footage, the raw footage of the audio signals, then you can do later on whatever you want. If you did not register the surrounding or the students and so on, this signal, this audio will be lost forever. It's not there. So you cannot in post do anything. So that's my simple recommendation here. Always register at least as much audio as you can. You can delete it anyhow. I wouldn't delete it because it's not a space problem. Still do it. Yeah, I hope I could help a bit in showing how you can, let's say, set up a quite high quality video setting and in addition, combine that with a reasonable quality audio setting for a normal hybrid lecture where you only have 15 to maximum 20 minutes preparation time. Of course, again, if you want to go for real high quality, then you go with other cameras, you need a video switcher, you need other microphones, you need a more sophisticated setting. But this, then we talk about preparation times of at least 3 hours. And this is, of course, something completely different. And of course, for universities, it's very wise to have a room where you have a dedicated room for seminars where the equipment is already there. With respect to dedicated, of course, it also makes sense that in a faculty, for example, you have a computer with all the software already running so that you can quickly, you have OBS there, you have the Streamdeck can be connected, everything is there, and then you have kind of a default setting, and then you just can pick this and carry that to the lecture hall. And then, of course, also colleagues who might not be the specialists can use that. Yeah, so thanks for your attention. Good luck and have fun with your next hybrid lectures. Goodbye.